Welcome to 21st Century Faith. 21st Century Faith is a program brought to you by Aspect Ministries and features topics and guests that explore contemporary ways of reaching younger people and unchurched adults with the unchanging good news of the gospel. Now here's our speaker, the founder and director of Aspect Ministries, pastor, teacher, and author, Mike Bogart.
Well, hello and welcome to 21st Century Faith, brought to you by Aspect Ministries. I'm Michael Bogart, host of the show. Now, some of you tuned into our show today because you've been watching our 21st Century Faith summer series through Central Valley Talk. And others of you just happen to be watching right now. And if so, I hope you'll give me a few moments to explain why this show can make a real difference in your life. The point of 21st Century Faith is summarized in the title itself. It's all about how to experience effective Christian faith in our century. Our aim is not to criticize any group or to imply that we necessarily know better than anybody else. These days, one of the biggest criticisms of Christianity is that it divides people. And it's my hope that this show will not only not divide people, but will actually bring people together. People who are already followers of Jesus in all their many varieties, and those who maybe are not yet. Another purpose of this show is to promote faith in Jesus while maintaining what we call civil discourse. In a pluralistic society, it's vital that we all learn manners in discussing controversial issues with people with whom we may disagree. And that's what we aim to do on 21st Century Faith, while remaining distinctively Christian. So, over the next weeks, we are going to be investigating ways of communicating Christian faith effectively and exploring how people can experience the presence and the power of God in our times. We made a video recently that will give you a taste of what to expect in the weeks ahead. So enjoy that, and I'll be back after the video clip has aired. See you in just a minute. Hi, I'm Michael Bogart, founder of Aspect Ministries. After nearly 40 years in Christian ministry, I founded Aspect because, frankly, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the way things are in the church and in the world. I'm even more concerned about the future, and maybe you share my concern as well. For instance, according to a Barna research poll conducted in 2011, Christian churches are losing around 60% of their Christian young people, starting in their teen years. And this phenomenon is happening across the spectrum of organized Christian bodies in North America. I understand that some church leaders have argued that young people checking out of church has always been a problem, and that's true, but not to this drastic extent. And it's certainly true that some of these absent young people will eventually find their way back due to marriage or some other life change. But many may be gone permanently unless we do something to reach them soon. And keep in mind that this 60% figure isn't even counting the large number from this millennial generation that were never part of any organized Christian body. I call this problem the crisis of the absent generation because this 18 to 35-year-old group is noticeably absent from visible Christianity. Then there's what can only be described as the challenge of ideas. Gone are the days when the majority of people looked at life and the world from a more or less Christian point of view. Long gone. The Christian worldview is now only one of a number of ways that people look at reality. For example, groups like the New Atheism, Humanism, Islam, and ideas from a spectrum of groups called the New Age movement are not only in competition with Christianity, but are pushing it to the sidelines of the public forum. Okay, I know this sounds pretty negative, so let's switch gears a bit. In some parts of the world, Christianity is growing rapidly, and that's a very good thing. Asia, Latin America, Africa, and Eastern Europe are experiencing sustained growth of Christianity. The problem is that in many places, these new Christians do not have leaders who have adequate training in the essentials of the faith or in the kind of leadership that is both effective and kingdom-minded. This situation represents the demand for Christian leadership training in the developing world. Obviously, poorly trained church leaders often leave churches open to the abuses of power and doctrine. Now, stop and consider. If these trends don't change, what will Christianity look like in 25 or 30 years? Please understand, I'm not an alarmist. What I've just described is pretty obvious. If you haven't noticed these things already, just look around. This is the reality of the early 21st century. Now, the church around the world is already doing lots of amazing things, so there's much to feel very positive about. But here's the point. Although so much of what Christians are doing in the world is wonderful and should cause us to rejoice, the issues I have just listed, the crisis of the absent generation, the challenge of ideas, and the demand for training in the developing church, should not be considered as just more wonderful things we should do. These three issues are essentials. We simply must turn things around in these areas, or the effective influence of Christ's church will be greatly diminished in the years ahead. In other words, reaching the absent generation, meeting the challenges of ideas, and training Christian leaders, especially in the developing world, these are game changers. They're non-negotiables. We simply have to get them done. So here's the purpose of our ministry. Aspect Ministries assists people to be effective followers of Jesus in the 21st century. We're accomplishing this purpose by promoting culturally winsome ways of communicating authentic Christian faith, training Christian leaders through providing basic biblical tools such as online courses and training materials, and fostering conversations with those outside Christian faith that are productive for God's kingdom. What can we do for you? Aspect Ministries is a tool that churches and Christian organizations can access to enhance their ministry. We speak at conferences and services. We provide training seminars, and we supply study materials and media that will help you be more effective in the areas that we've been talking about. For instance, we have a line of videos, books, and study guides on Islam, the cults, and on the Bible itself that are brief, they're easy to understand, and helpful as starting points for sharing the Christian faith. Aspect Ministries provides online classes through Aspect Leadership Institute that specialize in equipping Christians to be effective in sharing their faith. In other words, we can help you be more effective in reaching the absent generation, in training leaders in your church and in your missions projects, and in how to talk to people who are involved in other religions and ideologies. How can you cooperate with us? Of course, we need your prayers. As president of Aspect, I have sensed God's blessing on what we've been doing from the very beginning. But we need God's continuing guidance and provision. Please, put us on your prayer calendar. We would love to be part of your missions program or your missions giving as well. Again, we believe that what we're doing is very strategic. Then, we need your help in getting the word out about Aspect. People need to be aware of what we can do to help churches and individual Christians be more effective in these very specific areas. And finally, we're looking for people who may sense a calling to work with us. Our contact information is listed at the end of this video. Now, before I close, I'm reminded that our Lord Jesus promised that the good news would spread around the earth and that the gates of Hades would not prevail against us. These are indeed words of great comfort and hope. Yet they should not be interpreted in a way that encourages complacency or that excuses us if we do nothing. No. At Aspect Ministries, we are certainly not the only ones who are talking about these things. But Aspect Ministries is all about doing something to assist the church, the whole church, into an effective future. We provide concrete things that can be done to help change these trends. To find out more about how you can be involved, check out our website at www.aspectministries.com. Thanks for listening. With God, we can change the direction of the future. I'm Michael Bogart for Aspect Ministries, and Aspect Ministries is all about effective 21st century faith. Video. In the future, we're going to be examining how Christian faith can be lived out clearly and effectively and even joyfully in our times. Hope you'll turn in on Wednesdays at about 11:30 for what we call 15 Minutes of Faith. If you'd like to give me your constructive comments and input, you can email me at info@aspectministries.com. Well, starting next time, we will be discussing the Bible and its relevance to the 21st century. We'll be starting with issues like when the Bible was written and who wrote the books and why it includes the books that it does, and how various groups of people see the Bible and use it today. In other segments, we'll move on to pick out the highlights of each of the Bible's main sections. And then we'll go on to discover its amazing ability to speak to the deepest concerns that people face today, more than 20 centuries after the last of its books were completed. In the future, we'll go on to look at why Jesus of Nazareth is regarded as the central person in history by millions of people, and why following him in the 21st century is as relevant today as it's ever been. We'll also explore ways of connecting the millennial generation to active Christian faith. This is such an important part of the 21st century faith in the times that we're living in. We need to understand how to pass the Christian faith on to the next generation. So we hope that as you watch each week, that we can provide ways of enhancing your ability to follow Jesus Christ, to bless your life, and to enable you to be an effective Christian in the century that we live in. We're going to be doing this in a lot of different ways. We're going to be talking about the new atheism. We're going to be talking about, scientism and some of the criticisms of Christianity from that viewpoint. So there'll be a lot of interesting information. Plan to do this every single week at this same time. 21st century faith, I believe, is a necessary part of the lives not only of Christian people, but also of people who are interested, people who aren't quite sure what to think about Jesus Christ and about how he might fit into life as we know it in our times. So, 15 minutes of faith on the program called 21st Century Faith, right here on this station, at this time every week. We hope that you'll become part of a regular viewership, and we look forward to having you with us on a regular basis. My name is Michael Bogart. I'm the host of the show, representing the show for Aspect Ministries. Aspect Ministries is all about effective 21st century faith. Glad to have you with us. We're going to see you hopefully a lot in the future, and we hope that your day is blessed. So look forward to seeing you next time on 21st Century Faith.
Thanks so much for joining us on today's 21st Century Faith. Mike Bogart would love to hear from you. So if you have any questions, or you'd like to dialogue with Mike, please feel free to use the contact information you see on the screen. And we hope you'll come back and bring a friend to the next program of 21st Century Faith.